Hi, I'm Heather from Heather Handmade, and today I am releasing a new sewing pattern. It's called the Upcycled T-Shirt Leggings and Shorts, and the idea of the pattern is to be able to upcycle adult knit clothing to make leggings with no hem, leggings with a cuff, or shorts with no hem. It doesn't really mean that there is no hem on the leggings or shorts. I call it that because you don't have to sew a hem, but you're actually reusing the hem of the original item. I came up with the cuff version because oftentimes when I upcycle, I use the hem first because that's my favorite thing to reuse. And then I have a fair amount of fabric left in the item and I don't have a hem to use. So if you use the cuff version, you can still upcycle an item, but you don't have to use the hem. You can find this pattern in my shop. It's linked down in the description, and for 1 week it will be 20% off. Once you've purchased the pattern, you can come back here and you can learn how to make the leggings. It has all of the details. Upcycling is something I'm really passionate about. I love being able to save time by reusing details. I love saving money because oftentimes I'm reusing things in the donation pile. I love saving memories. For some t-shirts, when you reuse the item, the graphic will get on, it will become the side of the leg. So you can make some really fun things by reusing t-shirts, and then, you know, if it was a t-shirt that you wore, then you get to see your child wear it, and that's really fun. It also helps the environment because you're not buying new fabric and you're keeping some items out of the landfill. The items you can reuse for this pattern are t-shirts, men's and women's. I do find that men's are a little more, the fabric is very similar between different brands, and so I find a lot more success when I use men's t-shirts, and they're all kind of a big boxy shape, so there's a lot of fabric to use. With women's, I find the fabric content and the shape is just, it varies a lot, so it's a little harder to use women's t-shirts, but it is possible. I also really like to use knit skirts and knit dresses. If you use the larger sizes, you will probably need to use like a maxi skirt or a maxi dress. You can also use women's workout pants or leggings because there's a lot of fabric, and there's a hem that you can reuse at the bottom. I give details in the video about how you can cut it open so it's a little easier to place your pattern piece. And lastly, you can use jersey sheets if it has a nice hem on the edge, you know, like a flat jersey sheet. Those are stretchy and comfortable, and if the hem is good, then you can use those and that will work really nice. I can't wait to share this pattern with you, so let's get started. So today I'm going to make a pair of leggings reusing the hem out of the t-shirt, and then with this pair, this is a workout pair of pants or leggings. I've already, as you can see down here, I've already cut a pair of shorts from the bottom right here, so I'm going to show you how you can still use the cuffed version of the pattern to reuse an adult garment. So I'm going to be doing that with this. So I'm going to get started by cutting out the pair of leggings that reuse the hem. And if you pay attention to this graphic, this is like a bear or something, it will end up on the top side of the leggings. So I have this pattern piece already traced and ready. This is a size 4 with no hem. So that means you need to line up the bottom of the leggings with the hem so that you can reuse it, and then slide your pattern up. So I'm going to add a couple of pattern weights. So you can see I'm going to try to actually center that face up here at the top. And I'm going to place my pattern weights. And now I'm going to cut this out. Now for this pair of workout pants, the best thing to do when you have a pair of workout pants, it looks more like this, is that you need to cut open the inseam so that you can open it up like this, and then you have this nice big piece of fabric to use, and it's not pulled because of a seam or something. There is a chance that you will have a seam going down the side, but you can just use that seam as part of the design of the leggings. So now I'm going to place my pattern piece. It doesn't really matter where you place it since we are not reusing the hem. I'm actually going to flip it over because it seems to work better with the shape. It's higher up here, which this side of the pattern is higher. So I'm going to put on my pattern weights. And then I have the cuff piece that I want to add. And since I don't quite have enough room to put it on the fold, I'm going to cut one here, and then I'm going to cut one here. And I will have to add a seam on the side, which is fine, but then I'll be able to get the cuff from the same fabric. If you have something that's a little bit bigger, you wouldn't have a problem with getting your cuff out of the excess fabric. So now I'm going to cut out these pieces. Now with this pair of leggings that we're reusing the hem, the first step is to line up your pieces right sides together, and you're going to line up this center front curve and center back curve and pin the two layers together. Now we're going to sew each seam with a serger or a zigzag and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to open up these leggings like this to match up the inseam. And I'm going to pin the edges together. Now I'm going to sew this seam with either a serger or a zigzag and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now these are the two cuff pieces. If you could get your cuff out of one piece of fabric on the fold, then just ignore this seam. You'll just have this rectangle here like this and a rectangle here like this. So what you're going to do is you are going to these are your two short ends, and you are going to match them up with right sides together and pin those edges together. Then you're going to sew this seam with a zigzag or a serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So turn the leggings right side out. And you can start to see that the graphic that was on the t-shirt has ended up right here on one of the legs. So that's a fun way to reuse the graphic. It becomes, you know, a unique part of the leggings. So to finish off the hem, if you sewed with a sewing machine, you won't have serger tails, but this is still how I recommend finishing this edge. You don't want this seam allowance to be poking out down here at the bottom. So what I like to do is I figure out which side. This is the back side of the leg. So I'm going to tuck my serger thread in the towards the back, and then I fold the seam allowance towards the back like this. So any thread tails are hanging out under there, hidden, and you want to make sure that this top part covers the seam allowance. You don't want it to be poking out. And add a pin to keep it in place like this. And we're going to just tack across here in a diagonal to keep all of that inside so it doesn't poke out. So do the same to your other leg. So now I'm going to take my sewing machine. I'm going to start out here on the edge and sew a diagonal line across to the hem and to the seam. So when you sew across like this, you're keeping the threads in there and you're keeping that seam allowance tucked underneath. If you don't want anyone to see, I would recommend using thread that matches this same color of the fabric. I'm going to be using black so that you'll be able to see it. So you can see I sewed right here across. So then I go in, I take some scissors and I trim the threads, all the thread tails. And then you have a nice finished edge and the seam allowance is hiding and the threads are all inside. And if this thread was matching, it would be really hard to see. It would just kind of blend in. So now you're going to turn your leggings right side out. Now take your cuffs, and it's one long tube. You are going to fold it with wrong sides together, and the seam allowances will be on the inside like this. So take your cuff that is now folded. This is a fold and these are the raw edges, and you are going to slide it onto the bottom of one leg. So match up your seam, all of your seams here on one side. If you have an extra seam on your cuff, it's just going to be on the other side. But if you just have one seam on your cuff, it should match up with the inseam. And we are going to pin the cuff to the leg. So you might have to stretch your pant leg to fit just slightly. Now you are going to sew around this edge with a 3/8 inch seam allowance and using a zigzag or a serger, and do that to both legs. So now your cuffs are on, you can fold them down, and the cuffs are finished, the hem is finished of the pants. So the last thing we have is to attach elastic to the waist. So this pattern uses 1-inch elastic, and I have the size memorized for this size for my daughter. Then you're going to take this elastic, you're going to overlap it by 1/2 inch, and you're going to sew a zigzag up and down to secure that. I like to pin the overlap to the back. So I pin this in place, just like this. Then I stretch to find the center of the waist and the center of the elastic going the other way, and I match those up. I do the same on one side where I pull to find the center and match them up. And the other side. Then I stretch to fit in between each of the pins. Now I'm going to sew down the center of the elastic with a zigzag stitch to hold the 2 layers together, but you're going to need to stretch the elastic to fit the pants as you sew. Now that the elastic is sewn in, you are going to fold the elastic down inside. I usually don't pin this part, but you're going to stretch the elastic to fit. And I like to sew from the inside, and I sew down here along the edge. And you sew with a zigzag, and you'll see it from the front. And that's how you secure the elastic inside so it's not rubbing against any skin. And it makes it a lot more comfortable. And that is how you make a pair of upcycled t-shirt leggings, either reusing the hem of the original t-shirt or using a cuff at the bottom. It has elastic at the top. It's nice and soft and comfortable. The leggings are a great fit. Let me know if you have any questions that I can answer in the comments. And that's how you make upcycled t-shirt leggings. It's a great project to do. It's fast and easy. I can't wait to see all of the leggings and shorts that you make. Please share them with me on social media, and I hope you have a wonderful day.